We dive further into the First Nations languages and storytelling to explore the surprising connections to the biblical account, and we answer some mailbag questions about why God created us. This is Genesis Week. All right, well, welcome again to this episode of Genesis Week, the weekly program of creationary commentary on news, views, and events pertaining to the Origins controversy, made possible by you, the supporters of Core Ottawa, Citizens for Origins Research and Education. Excellence in pirate broadcasting, we're coming to you all across the great expanse of Canada via cable and satellite on the Miracle Channel, down in central Michigan on GNS TV, and all around the world on Genesis Week, our Genesis Science Network, and of course on the internet. You can find us on Rumble and as well as YouTube. Remember, if you get lost in cyberspace, you can find us at genesisweek.com or Ian's Rumble channel on YouTube, www.wazulu.com. I'm your host, Al Vasho, here with none other than my co-host, the guy that you know, Ian Juby. So today is Friday, January 12th, 2024. Welcome to those of you joining us in this live recording of the show. This is what we do, and then we post-production and we repost it and so on. You want to join us for those as well and share it and invite your friends and family. We're going to pick up where we left off in last week's show, examining the Walam Olum. Don't say that too many times too fast. Otherwise known as the Red Record. This is part 2. We did discuss this in previous Core Ottawa podcasts, but tonight we're going to go into it a lot more detail, including some new information. Ian, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, Al. And you know what? I just noticed Deborah from Nova Scotia was in the chats. And Deborah was the one, I'm pretty sure that was, she was the lady that asked last week about possible Hebrew letters in the Indian pictographs. And so anyway, I answered her question last week. So welcome to the house there, Deborah, and as well as Matt and John Davis. Boy, we got a whole full house tonight. Thanks for everyone for joining us for the live. I am super stoked actually about tonight's show. It was a wild day today. Last week was a wild week. I didn't get the show uploaded to the station until I think it was noon on Wednesday by the time. I mean, I was up until midnight Tuesday night and then up at 5 in the morning to continue editing because there was so much stuff, so much information coming in. I did not see any of this coming, and it happened again today where, well, I'll share it with you. So for those of you who caught the show, which literally aired about 10 minutes ago, just finished airing, we were talking about the Walam Olum, which is basically prayer sticks. It's better known as the Red Record or the Red Score. They're basically prayer sticks carved into birch bark. And apparently the Lenape, Delaware tribes carved, this is basically, it's a song. So this is like a song sheet, for lack of a better word. And they carved these glyphs, which were sort of keeping tabs, or it's to help memorize the song and to help memorize the stories. So the Walam Olum was first published upon by C.S. Raffinsk way back in 1833, because the internet is all alight with it apparently being a hoax. We're going to examine that and some of the reasons why I would contend no, absolutely not, and including some stuff that came up today. I was a little surprised. So this is what Raffinsk's original manuscript looks like. So this was his originally published manuscript, which University of Pennsylvania currently has, and they have very kindly digitized it. So you can even go and look at this yourself online for free. So thank you to the University of Pennsylvania. This has been invaluable. And you can see the glyphs here that Raffinsk, basically he had to learn the Lenape Indian language, and then he wrote out the verses and then translated them. Now he kind of got some of the translations wrong. I agree with the critics there, but at the same time, in 1885, I'm going to be referring to this guy as well. Daniel Brinton retranslated the Walam Olum, and he published this in 1885. So I'm going to be referring to his work as well. And also this book, which I don't know if Julie Hedin has joined us tonight or not. This book, the Walam Olum, 1993, I believe it was reprinted in 1995. This is a 1995 edition, but Julie gifted us this book by David McCutcheon, where he again revisited the red score, the red record, and again retranslated it. And he did a lot of things, including making an entire set of replicas of the Walam Olum, because the original was lost. And thank you very much, Julie, for the book. This was really, really hard to get and expensive. I think the cheapest one I found was like 150 US before shipping. So thank you to all of them, and thank you to Julie. One of the things that McCutcheon did, which I really like, is he basically broke up the Walam Olum into books, chapters, and verses. I like what he did there. So I'm going to go with what he did. So you can see here, here's the first book and the first chapter. And again, this is all in the book, and we're going to go down the list. I went through this list in the last episode that just aired an hour ago. And for those of you watching this by television, it will have been last week's episode. So episode 10 of Genesis Week. We went through the entire first book. And we're going to revisit this because a whole pile of questions came up last week from that show. So this is what Raffinsk's original notes in his manuscript look like. So he basically traced the glyphs. So they're like hieroglyphs, like Egyptian hieroglyphs. But basically they are depictions of that Indian hand-talking sign language with, the sun crossing the sky, and you could depict what time of day it was and things like that. They were all very adept at this Indian sign language, and these are basically depictions in pictograph form of those hand signs. So that's how the Walam Olum came into being. So we're going to move on today to, oh yes, I wanted to back up for a second. So we're going to move on to Book 1, Chapter 2. And if we're lucky, we're going to make it through Chapter 2 today. Maybe even to Chapter 3. We'll see. But there's a lot to cover. So last week in Chapter 1, so there's verse 1, verse 2, and verse 3. So I want to focus on this symbol just for a quick second. And so for those of you watching by the live stream, we're looking at this one right here. So this is a very common glyph. This is the Great Spirit, basically the creator God. Gitche Manitou, as we will see in the Lenape language. The Cree are a little more specific. They call them Sayi Gitche Manitou, and that sometimes it's a G, sometimes it's a K. It depends on the dialect. But Gitche Manitou, same thing, same idea. And this glyph, again, bearing in mind that the glyphs are based upon the Indian hand signs, the hand sign language, which they all communicated with, all of them. And they were all very adept, even cross-culturally, cross-languages. The deaf and hard of hearing could communicate using this Indian hand sign language. And so these are depictions. So that's one of the reasons why these glyphs are so common and cross culture, cross language barrier, everything. But so this is the symbol for the creator spirit. And so here you can see some examples. This is Rafink's tracing in his original book. Basically Brinton and McCutcheon were both operating off of Rafink's drawing. And so they were, so basically they're just redrawing from Rafink's manuscript. But Rafink's, of course, translated this as primordial, of all present. In fact, what it is depicting is basically an eye. So it's like an all-seeing eye with compass points, north, south, east, and west. And so it was omniscient, omnipresent, all-seeing, all-knowing. That is what is depicted here. And you can see the same common glyph, even in the Pueblo Indians. This was their version of it, way down in the southwestern U.S. So this was the Delaware, up in the northeastern portion of the U.S., yet tribes down in the southwest were using basically the same glyphs. It's the eye with the 4 cardinal points. The Sioux Indians, which were right up here into Ontario, I lived in Sioux Lookout, Ontario for many years. So they also depicted it. There's the all-seeing eye. Sometimes they just had a dot in the middle. Sometimes it was a circle. And then they had the outer perimeter of the eye. And then, of course, the 4 cardinal points, indicating that it was omnipresent. It was all over the place, basically. Sometimes they depicted a simpler version of just an eye with either a circle or a dot. This is going to be really important in just a minute. So, using McCutcheon's breakdown into chapters, books, chapters, and verses, this is book 1, chapter 2, and right off the bat, this is what I spent most of today working on, was this very first glyph. And I've picked up on some things that none of the other translators have even looked at, and I'm honestly not sure why. So let's take a close look at that first one. Again, these are the verses in the song. So we're going to go down the list, and Rafink's actually had to learn the Lenape language. Then he had to learn the songs that these prayer sticks were the song sheets for. So here is Rafink's manuscript with that glyph. So there's the glyph right there. And what he has here, Lapanup, Kitanatowit, Manitou, Manitowok. That was the verse in Lenape. So Lapanup is again when. I'm just going to go over his translation, then I'm going to backtrack and explain in more detail. Kitanatowik, God creator, and Manitou, there's that word which many people will be familiar with, especially here in Ontario, Manitou Island. That's where the word comes from. Manitou, he made.
That's right.
Manitowok, there's that root word, Manitou. And we're going to come back to this several times tonight. The Lenape, like the Algonquin, like Cree, like Ojibwe, like Inuktitut, it's a polysynthetic language. So they literally take a bunch of words and glue them all together to make really, really long words. So one word in Lenape or Algonquin or Cree can literally translate to an entire sentence, sometimes an entire paragraph. You should see the word for university. Oh my goodness, it would take me a month to learn that word.
So, all right, just the word university is complicated enough.
Oh yes, because I think it's an agglutination of 8 different words, if I recall. It's really long and it's really complex. So I'm going to disagree with Rafink's on a couple points here. One of the points is right here, Kitana to Manitou. He is saying Manitou means he made, and Kitana to is God creator. It's actually the other way around. Manitou is the word for spirit. And you preface it with Kitchi for Kitchi Manitou, or this 1835 word, Katinutwit. I'm still having a hard time pronouncing that. I just learned that word today, by the way, so I'm going to mess it up, just so you know. So I have to disagree with him on that point, because even here, he's got Manituak. There's that word, the root word, Manitou, but it's an agglutinated word, Manituak. And notice he's got it, the spirits. He's correct there. He's referring to that word Manitou, which is spirit. So Manituak, the spirits or makers, okay? So basically, what this glyph is talking about is, again, the God creator made the spirits or makers. That's what Rafinks translates it as. I'm going to disagree with him on that translation, and here's why. First of all, hopefully you'll be able to see this. I've highlighted it in yellow. So there's the glyph. We're going to blow it up even more in just a second. So here's the glyph here, but what I've highlighted in yellow, notice the three spirits. The glyphs for three different spirits, they're all tied together. This is highly unusual. So what this glyph is showing, it's talking about our creator, but it is literally showing that our creator is actually composed of three spirits.
The Complete Creation video series is just that, an exhaustive look at the science, philosophy, and theology behind the creation-evolution debate. In this 40-part series, Ian Juby walks you through the debate, starting with the philosophical premises and limitations of science, then the surprising history of evolutionary and deep-time beliefs. You then walk through the evidence for creation from biology, geology, physics, paleontology, and archaeology. Chances are, any questions you have about the creation-evolution debate is answered in this video library. The series is both entertaining and educational, and suitable for personal study or homeschoolers. This 40-part series is available on a 20-disc set in either standard definition DVD or high-definition Blu-ray, and is on sale now. Order your hard copies today online at our store at ianjuby.org.
For me?
All right, we're going to take you down to the mailbag. Let's take a look at this. And aren't those glyphs depicting a flat Earth? What's your say on this, Ian?
Okay, so had a whole mess of people, so I posted a picture of this Perstic replica, which I made last week. I posted a picture on Facebook and had a flood of comments, including a bunch of people saying, those glyphs look like they're depicting a flat Earth, like these. In fact, I will even go so far as to preemptively point out that those people would also suggest that perhaps this is the Rakia dome talked about in Genesis chapter 1, verse 6. So not only is it depicting a flat earth, it's also depicting the solid dome, as mentioned in Genesis chapter 1, verse 6. I disagree, and here's why. And Al, feel free to jump in, because Al already, he nailed it before we started, before we went live, we were talking about this, and he just rhymed right off the top of his head exactly what I was going to say. But just real quickly, they are correct in one point, in that you can see the line in the bottom of the glyph. These lines do depict Earth, per se. They depict it as a horizontal line. That's true. It is a horizon. But again, remember, these glyphs are they're basically pictographs of the Indian hand signs. So when they're talking about day, they draw an arc to represent the sun rising in the east, crossing the sky, and setting in the west. It has nothing to do with, it's not a statement on the shape of the earth, a shape of the sky. It's nothing to do with any of that. It's simply a hand sign that was understood by everybody, that represented the sun traversing the sky to represent a day. The hand signs for ground or earth was actually multiple signs, and it was just a horizontal line, a hand swipe. So ground level was one line, earth was two lines, homeland or home earth, basically your home territory, was three lines. So you have different versions of the hand sign for earth or dirt or ground. Right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is intriguing to me. The first thing that stood out was, I know flat earth believers believe that that is a firmament, and that arc that you see is the actual firmament that that the Bible speaks of. But in fact, it is the hand signals. So in the sign language, when they describe the morning, they're doing that arc with their hand, or midday, or evening, and they're creating that arc as a hand signal, not depicting a firmament, but just tracing the time of day with hand gestures. It's nothing more than that, and I think anything more is just clear speculation.
And to take off from that as well, if we actually looked at some of those glyphs from chapter 1 in the first book of the Red Record, this was in the beginning. This was the very first day of everything. It was before time itself was even...
No sun, no moon created.
Right. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Right. The sun wasn't created. The moon wasn't created yet.
Correct. Correct. And also that firmament wasn't yet created. This was in the beginning. At first, and it's interesting because the verse is, seawater covered all the land. This is actually a depiction of seawater on the land. So normally this is a bowl shape for water, but it's upside down because it's covering all the land. So that's what that glyph is. And also, as you pointed out before we went live, some of these glyphs where it was talking about the creation of the sun and the moon and moving them, their motions in harmony, notice it depicts the sun under the firmament during this creation day, which that's not the firmament. Again, this is just a hand sign. And in this particular hand sign, it was a hand sign for the moon. And this hand sign and glyph actually depicted the path of the moon across the sky. So the sun, if you want to play the Rakia card, the firmament card, the sun was in the Rakia here, whereas in the next glyph, it was on top of the firmament. It's because it has nothing to do, that's not a firmament, it is simply a hand sign, and these dots are actually depicting the path of the sun, or in this one, which was an especially fascinating glyph, it's depicting a meandering path of the moon in the sky. And there's the moon itself. So that's Rafink's original tracing of the Walam Olum glyphs. Fascinating.
And could it be interpreted as the glyph on the left? The moon is in the sky while the sun is set, where the secondary one, the one on the right, the sun is in the sky while the moon is set.
Oh, I suppose that's a possibility, I guess. And you just made me realize something else I missed too. Also notice, again, multiple hand signs for land, homeland, earth, things like that. Notice this one has two lines for land. This one only has one line. So that's not depicting a flat Earth, if that one is. This one as well is 2 lines. You might be right on that, but again, remembering that this glyph was actually part of the creation account, where it was talking about the stars in the heaven, the sun, the moon being created and being in harmony and their motion through the sky. So maybe that might be something deeper there. I don't know. But this last one as well, again, 2 lines indicating the Earth, but it's an island, and the whole depiction here was that the island is basically, it rises up and it's solidly set in the Earth. It won't move, and it is now ready to be inhabited. And it's very strange because all the translators agreed on this. I even agree with them. The Lenape words indicate that the islands that rose out of the waters, the deep that was covering the earth, and then the islands were brought forth out of that, they all indicate that the islands were pure as snow. Just a very unusual thing there, which again, I come back to the whole idea of this is a hoax. Okay, well, why would you put that in there? That makes no sense. Why would you put something confusing in to make it less believable? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so we're obviously out of time for this show, but thank you to all who joined us for the live recording, and please follow our social media pages for dates, times, and upcoming live streams, recordings, and join us in the chats. So we'll leave all of you with those words of warning and hope from our Creator, the Lord Jesus Christ himself, who said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me." God bless you all. You can send your comments, questions, hate mail, and letter bombs to us in a number of ways. You can email comments at genesisweek.com, or you can tweet at GenesisWeek. Or leave a comment on CORE's Facebook page at CORE Ottawa. Or leave a comment on the appropriate show available on either the Rumble channel, rumble.com/user/IanJuby, or on the YouTube channel, which you can easily find by going to wazulu.com, that's Ian, and that'll take you straight to the YouTube channel. But just remember, these shows are now recorded live, so you'll want to search out the show under the Live tab. We need your support to keep this program on the air, so please pray for us. And if you wish to financially support the program, Canadians can make a tax-deductible donation via PayPal online at ianjuby.org/donations, or you can mail a check written out to CORE, Canada North, Post Office Box 72075, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, K2K 2P4. And thank you for your support.